The city that banned Section 8 tenants has now decided to allow them to stay till the end of their leases. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's an update to a video I did, a little over a week ago about an HOA that basically is its own town that decided to ban Section 8 tenants from the entire HOA and, start fining landlords. I believe it's $300 a week for, as long as those tenants decide to stay in there. So the reasoning behind it, what they, tried to explain was that they believe that all the crime problems within this HOA were being caused by the Section 8 tenants, okay? And obviously I understand exactly what they're talking about, okay? I actually have Section 8 tenants in some of the rental units that I own, but, my tenants are good. They don't cause any problems. Not all Section 8 tenants are bad, and I don't want people to get the impression that I think that's the case. But in the case of this HOA, right, they believe that, hey, a lot of the crime problems, a lot of the problems they have within their community are being caused by these Section 8 tenants who are renting properties there, right? And they want them out, and they're not willing to, deal with it anymore. Their plan is just to make it so it's illegal to have Section 8 there in the community. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I know I've asked this question before. I asked it on my first video. I also asked it on my community tab, right? But, in terms of Section 8 tenants, right? Do you believe that they are a source of crime, and would you mind having a lot of them in a community where you live? I know personally, right? Probably none of my neighbors are Section 8, okay? I live in a majority homeowner community, right? In a HOA, and most of the properties here are not rentals, okay? There might be one or two sprinkled here or there, but the rents would be so high that most Section 8 tenants wouldn't even be able to move into these properties. But, I do understand why there is a very, very negative, perception of Section 8 in general and the tenants who live in Section 8 units. And part of that is because, it's deserved. Part of it is deserved. I'll just say that flat out, right? It's the same reason why a lot of landlords just don't want to rent to Section 8 tenants, because they bring problems. Not all the time. Like I said, if you do a good job with tenant screening, you could have a great tenant in your unit. But overall, there are a lot higher percentage of problem tenants who, happen to live in Section 8 housing than in non-Section 8 housing, in my opinion, okay? I don't have any stats for that, so, you take it for what it seems, but when it comes down to me living in a neighborhood filled with Section 8, well, I wouldn't want to do that, okay? I want to live in a community where, majority of people are homeowners, where people have pride in their properties and take care of them, and most Section 8 communities are not like that, unfortunately. So after I go over this article, I'm actually going to read a few of the comments from my first video and tell you what other people who watch that video think of Section 8 and what they think, okay? So let's get into it. This article is coming from DentonRC.com, and it says, in reversal, Providence HOA to allow Section 8 tenants to finish leases. All right, let's see what it says. The Providence Homeowners Association will allow Section 8 Housing Choice Vouchers tenants to finish their current leases before moving, according to an update sent to residents Tuesday evening. The move is a reversal for the HOA, which first told landlords they would begin receiving $300 fines 30 days after passing of the new rental and leasing rules June 1st. After several news reports, the association instead said in a June 15th announcement that the HOA would begin enforcement 90 days after the rules were recorded with the county. Landlords with voucher tenants would then have 30 days to comply after receiving notice of violation. So yeah, they're not backing down completely, right? They're just saying, hey, we're going to allow these landlords to honor their leases. We're going to allow them to give the legal amount of time for tenants, and then they got to go. Those tenants still got to go. They're not backing down. They didn't change their mind. They got a lot of media attention for it. Okay. Now, I reported on it, but then after I reported, all of a sudden I'm looking up and there's an article in the New York Post and on several different, larger publications about this story, because it was so, so attention grabbing that, hey, the bigger news people, they finally saw it, right? I hope they watched my video and then they saw it, but probably not. So the Providence Homeowners Association has learned that we not only have voucher recipients from Denton County, but Dallas County as well, making the total residents on Section 8 subsidized housing almost double the amount previously anticipated. The Tuesday night announcement read, "Considering this new information, the Board of Directors has agreed to allow all Section 8 tenants with a current existing lease dated on or before June 15th, 2022, and not to exceed a 12-month lease term, the ability to finish out their leases." More than 600 residents from 157 households were expected to be displaced by the new leasing rules, according to data from the Denton and Dallas housing authorities. So yeah, it says 157 households, right? And I believe that on the last article I read, they said there were more than 2,000 homes in total in this community, right? So we're still talking about, it's not quite 10%, somewhere between, I guess, around 7.5%, 8% of the population of this place is these tenants, right? And that's a lot of people to displace all at once. So you got to wonder, what is the reasoning and logic behind it, And so let's keep going. The ban was the subject of pushback from local and state groups, including low-income housing advocates, Texas Housers, the Texas Homeless Network, and United Way of Denton County, which penned a letter June 17th asking the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate the leasing rules for a potential violation of the Fair Housing Act. The act prohibits discrimination based on race and other protected classes. Over 90% of the voucher holders in Providence Village are black. The Denton Housing Authority also urged tenants not to move after the voucher ban was initially publicized, while several property owners in the area with Section 8 tenants consulted with an attorney about filing an injunction to stop the HOA from enforcing the rules. So here's my thought on the whole thing, right? They didn't actually ban Section 8 tenants, okay? So when they are investigating it, they said they are going to fine the landlords $300 per week for a Section 8 tenant, right? They didn't tell the landlords, well, you have to get rid of these tenants. No, they just said, you can have these tenants, but you're going to be paying a $300 fine every single week. So maybe that's their workaround. The other thing is, Texas is not one of those states that has source of income discrimination laws, okay? So there is no law in place that says, hey, a landlord can't reject a Section 8 tenant. So, yeah, I think it's a push. I think, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to say that, hey, this is 100% legal or not, right? But I think that there's a chance that this could be legal, okay? Just based on what I've read. Interesting situation. I don't know what exactly is going to happen with this. We'll just have to, keep watching. I'll update people as this whole thing, more news comes out about it. But I'm going to read some of the comments from my previous video on this topic. And, it's interesting stuff because there's people who actually live in that area and, they commented on my video. So I found that quite interesting. So the first comment I'm going to read, it's coming from Ian Edison, and it says, I live in this neighborhood, and there are 86 Section 8 homes and 2,000 total homes. 80% total of the crime comes from the 4%. That's the only stat you need to know. And this all happened in the last 2 years. So, like I said, there's people commenting who live in this area, right? So obviously, 86, that number isn't correct. They said 157 in this most recent article, but still, it's a very small portion of the population that lives in Section 8 rentals, right? And according to this subject, hey, most of the crime is coming from those Section 8 rentals. Okay, that is something really to think about. Okay, if all the crime is coming from these small, specific rental properties, and all of this has happened within the last 2 years. So I don't know if a landlord in the last 2 years started buying up properties within the HOA and then renting them out to Section 8 tenants, and this not doing proper tenant screening, not vetting the tenants' backgrounds, and then it just became a huge issue. And that's what it sounds like. Okay, this is the part of the story that they don't report on in the newspaper articles. Okay. From Mrs. GBP, do you want Section 8 tenants in your neighborhood, bringing down your property values and bringing crime to your once peaceful neighborhood? I don't think anyone wants that. Way to go, Providence. Honestly, I don't want a large group of Section 8 tenants in my neighborhood, no. Okay? But I will say that individually, if you have one house here or there with, Section 8 tenants, it's probably not going to be an issue. You probably wouldn't have any problems. The problem is when you concentrate a large concentration of Section 8 rentals into an area. People who don't take care of their properties, people who, on average have a higher percentage of problems with crime and with the law, then all of a sudden that can really affect the neighborhood, make it a lot worse place. A for the love of Jesus says, landlord, rent out to anyone on Section 8 because they don't have to live with them. And honestly, that's not the case. Okay, I think most landlords, they're doing the right thing. Okay, they're putting good tenants in their properties, and they don't mind dealing with Section 8 tenants. A lot of landlords just don't. I don't. Okay, and we're not purposefully putting bad people into these properties, but there are a few, very small number of landlords who do horrible tenant screening and don't necessarily vet these tenants to make sure that they are appropriate fit for the neighborhood where they're renting them out. Okay. Inyata Landro says, I live in a community that doesn't rent to Section 8 tenants, and I love it. Majority of folks on Section 8 bring crime and drama. Wow. So there's a lot of people on here, and they are pretty opposed to Section 8 tenants. I mean, it is, like I said, the perception and the reality are, there's a reason why the Section 8 has such a bad name, and there's a reason why a lot of people don't want to live next to these tenants, and a lot of reasons why landlords don't want to rent to these tenants. Okay, and I don't want to sit here and say that all Section 8 is bad, but just looking through these comments, it's pretty obvious that, hey, there are some major issues with Section 8 tenants, and part of it might be the fact that, hey, we're talking about people who, they don't even have to pay for their own housing. They have no, skin in the game, essentially, right, for these neighborhoods. So they don't care what they do, and they don't care how bad they treat, their neighbors or the property. And so a lot of these tenants, they just have this whole mindset of the government's going to take care of me, and this is what happens with socialism. Okay, this is why I'm so against socialism and these socialist programs, because they take away all reason for people to be motivated to take care of the things that they have.